Ta. My name is Ella. I am 24 years old. I live in a small town with my parents and 4 sisters. Our house is full of noise and laughter. My mother always talks about marriage. She dreams of rich husbands for all her daughters. My father is quiet and kind. He likes to read books in his study. I am the second daughter. My older sister, Grace, is calm and sweet. Everyone loves her. I am more direct. I speak my mind. Sometimes people think I am proud, but I just say what I feel. One morning, my mother ran into the living room with excitement. "Girls, listen! A new man has moved into the big house near the park. His name is Mr. Ben Lawson. He is young and rich." She smiled wide. "He must be looking for a wife." My sisters laughed, but we were all curious. A week later, there was a charity event in town. Mr. Lawson was there, dressed neatly in a blue suit. He looked friendly and smiled at everyone. He talked to many people, including my sister Grace. They seemed to get along very well. Mr. Lawson came with his friend, Mr. Daniel Reed. Daniel was taller, quiet, and serious. He looked like he didn't want to be there. People said he was from the city and very rich, but he didn't talk to anyone. When I looked at him, I thought he seemed proud. Later that evening, I overheard him speaking to Ben. He said quietly, "Your new town is small. There is no one interesting here." I felt angry when I heard that. I thought, how rude. He thinks he is better than us. After that night, I didn't like Daniel. I told my best friend Mia, "He may have money, but he has no manners." She laughed and said, "Maybe he is just shy." But I didn't believe her. Grace and Ben started seeing each other more often. He visited our house and brought flowers. My mother was very happy. She told everyone, "Grace will soon be engaged." I was happy for my sister, but I didn't like seeing Daniel with them. He was polite but distant. Whenever he spoke to me, his words were short. He made me feel like he was judging me. One day, Ben invited us to a small dinner at his home. It was a nice evening. Everyone laughed and talked. Daniel sat across from me. I tried to ignore him, but during dinner, he asked me questions about my job. I work as an English teacher at a small school. He asked if I liked it. I said, "Yes, I love my job." He looked surprised. "It must be difficult to teach small children," he said. "It is," I replied, "but it is also beautiful." His eyes softened for a moment, but then he turned away. I thought he was strange, sometimes kind, sometimes cold. After dinner, there was music. Grace and Ben danced together. Daniel stood near the window watching. I was standing nearby when he spoke softly. "You don't like dancing?" I said, "I do, but only with someone I like." He smiled slightly. "Then I hope you find someone you like soon." His tone was teasing, but I thought he was making fun of me. I felt my face grow hot. "Thank you, Mr. Reed," I said sharply. "I don't need your advice." Then I walked away. I didn't see the small smile that formed on his face as I left. The next few weeks were full of small-town gossip. Everyone talked about Grace and Ben. But one morning, Ben suddenly left town. He didn't say goodbye to anyone. Grace was heartbroken. My mother cried, "What happened?" Why did he leave? I was angry and confused. Then we heard that Daniel had advised Ben to end the relationship. Grace said softly, "He told Ben I wasn't good enough." I couldn't believe it. My dislike for Daniel turned to hate. I thought he was cruel and proud. A few days later, my friend Mia invited me to the city for a short holiday. I was happy to go. I wanted to forget everything. When we arrived, she introduced me to her cousin George. He was kind, easy to talk to, and very friendly. We started meeting often. He told me that he once worked with Daniel Reed. I was surprised. I asked, "You know him?" George nodded. "Yes, but he is not a good man," he said. "He cheated my friend in business." I was shocked. That made me hate Daniel even more. I told Mia everything, and she said, "He doesn't sound like someone who deserves your time." When I returned home, Grace was still sad, but she tried to smile again. My mother didn't stop talking about finding us husbands. She said, "Ella, maybe one day you will meet someone rich and kind." I laughed. I want someone kind first, rich later. But deep inside, I was still angry about Daniel and how he hurt my sister. One afternoon, while I was out for a walk, I saw a familiar car stop near the park. Daniel stepped out. I froze. He looked surprised too. "Miss Ella," he said quietly. "It's been some time." I didn't want to talk to him. "Yes," I replied coldly. "I'm surprised you came back." He sighed. "I came to see Ben. He regrets how things ended." I crossed my arms. "He hurt my sister." Daniel looked serious. "I didn't mean to cause pain." His voice was calm, almost soft. "I thought I was protecting him." I frowned. "From what? From love?" He looked at me for a moment, then said, "From a family who only wanted his money." His words cut me deeply. "You are wrong," I said firmly. "My sister loved him for who he was, not what he had." Daniel's face showed regret, but I didn't care. I turned and walked away. My heart was racing. I was angry, but I also felt something strange, something I didn't understand yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Daniel's face, his quiet voice, and the sadness in his eyes. Why did he look so sorry? Why did his words feel different this time? I didn't want to care, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. I told myself it meant nothing. Still, when I closed my eyes, I saw his face again. It was the beginning of something I didn't expect, something that would change everything I thought I knew about pride, about love, and about him. Before I continue rest of the story, please like, subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. A few weeks passed, but I couldn't forget that meeting in the park. Daniel's calm voice and the sadness in his eyes stayed with me. I tried to push it out of my mind. I told myself he didn't matter. But deep inside, I felt confused. Could I have been wrong about him? I didn't want to believe it. I told my sister Grace about seeing him. She listened quietly and then said, "Maybe he feels bad, Ella. People can change. I didn't answer. I didn't want to talk about him anymore. A few days later, a big surprise came. My aunt invited me to visit her in the city for 2 weeks. I was excited. I needed a change. When I arrived, her home was full of light and laughter. She loved to talk, and her husband was always joking. One evening, we went to a charity event at a hotel. There were many guests, businessmen, teachers, and families. As I stood near the buffet table, I heard a familiar voice behind me. I turned, and there he was, Daniel Reed. He looked different, not cold, not distant, just tired, maybe even shy. He walked toward me and smiled. "Miss Ella," he said softly, "I didn't expect to see you here." I took a deep breath and replied, "Neither did I." He looked around the room. "May I offer you some coffee?" he asked. For a moment I wanted to say no, but something in his voice was gentle. So I said, "All right." We sat at a small table. It was strange at first. I didn't know what to say. Daniel broke the silence. "I know you think badly of me," he said slowly. "You have every reason to. But there are things you don't know." His words caught my attention. "What things?" I asked carefully. He sighed. "When Ben met your sister, I didn't understand her well. I thought she didn't love him. I thought she was only being kind because he was rich. I was wrong. I see that now." I didn't expect that. "You were wrong," I repeated. He nodded. "Yes. I thought I was protecting my friend, but I hurt your family instead." His eyes met mine. "I'm sorry." For a moment, I didn't know how to speak. I had hated him for so long, and now he said sorry so simply. I said, "My sister was very sad, but she's strong. She's better now." Daniel gave a small smile. "I'm glad to hear that." We talked for a long time. The conversation was calm and easy. He asked about my school, my students, and my dreams. He listened with interest. It was not the same man I met before. When we said goodbye, he asked if he could see me again. I said, "Maybe." That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't anger. It was curiosity. Why did he seem so honest now? Why did I feel so peaceful when he listened to me? I told myself it was nothing, but my heart didn't believe that. The next morning, he sent a message. It said, "Would you like to visit the art gallery today? There's an exhibition you might enjoy." I smiled. I didn't know he liked art. I said yes. When I met him at the gallery, he looked simple and relaxed, not like the proud businessman from before. We walked together, looking at the paintings. One picture caught my eye. A woman standing alone in a storm. "She looks strong," I said. Daniel replied, "Like you." I felt my cheeks grow warm. I didn't know what to say. After the visit, we sat outside for coffee. Daniel told me about his family, his work, and his life in the city. He said, "I have money, yes, but sometimes it feels empty. I wanted people to respect me. I didn't realize that respect without kindness means nothing." I listened quietly. For the first time, I saw him as human, not just rich and proud. "Maybe you were lonely," I said softly. He looked at me and nodded. "Maybe I was." We met a few more times that week. Each time, our talks became easier. I started to enjoy his company. He wasn't perfect, but he was kind and thoughtful. One evening, it began to rain. We stood under a small shop roof waiting for a taxi. Daniel looked at me, his hair wet, his face calm. "Ella," he said gently, "I know I was wrong before. I judged you and your family. I was foolish. But since meeting you again, I've come to respect you deeply. You are honest, strong, and kind. I don't know when it happened, but I've fallen in love with you." My heart stopped. I didn't expect those words. I didn't know what to say. For a moment, all I could hear was the sound of rain. I looked at him, trying to read his face. He looked serious, not proud, not joking, just sincere. But I still remembered my pain. "You hurt my sister," I said quietly. "You hurt me too." He nodded. "I know, and I'm ready to accept that. I only ask for a chance to prove myself." I felt confused. I had hated him for months. Now, he was standing in front of me, saying he loved me. I didn't trust my feelings. "I need time," I said finally. He nodded again. "Take all the time you need." Then he smiled sadly and stepped into the rain to find a taxi. I watched him go, my heart full of questions. The next few days, I thought about him often. I remembered how he used to be proud and cold, but now he was gentle. I remembered his apology and his quiet kindness. I wanted to tell someone, but I couldn't. Even Grace didn't know. I didn't want her to think I had forgotten what he did. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. Ben came back to town. He came straight to our house. Grace was shocked to see him. My mother almost screamed with joy. Ben said he had made a mistake leaving her. He explained that Daniel had told him the truth about his own pride and that he was sorry for what he had done. "He made me see how wrong I was," Ben said. "He's a good man, Ella. You should know that." Those words surprised me. Daniel had helped Ben make things right. Maybe he really had changed. Grace forgave Ben, and soon they were together again. Everyone in the house was happy. Everyone except me. I was happy for Grace, but I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. I wanted to see him, but I didn't know how. A week later, I received a message from him. It said, "I'm glad your sister and Ben are together again. They deserve happiness. Take care, Ella." There was no request to meet, no extra words, just that. It made my heart ache. I realized I wanted to see him again, not just to thank him, but because I missed him. That evening, I went for a walk near the park where we first met. The air was cool, and the sunset painted the sky pink. I didn't expect to see him there, but as I turned the corner, there he was. He looked surprised too. "Ella," he said softly, "I didn't think you'd come here." I smiled shyly. "I didn't think you'd be here either." For a moment, we just stood there. Then I said, "Thank you for helping Ben and Grace. You didn't have to, but you did." He smiled a little. "I wanted to make things right." I looked at him carefully. "You did. And you were right about one thing." He looked confused. "What's that?" I took a deep breath. Sometimes pride stops us from seeing the truth. His eyes softened. "Does that mean you forgive me?" I smiled. "Maybe I already have." He looked at me for a long time, and then he said, "That's enough for me." The wind blew softly between us. We walked together slowly, talking about simple things, our families, our dreams, our mistakes. Everything felt different now. It wasn't pride anymore. It wasn't hate. It was something warm, quiet, and real. After that evening in the park, Daniel and I started to meet more often. We didn't plan it, but somehow we always crossed paths. Sometimes it was at the coffee shop near my school, sometimes at the park in the evening. He never pushed me to talk about what had happened between us. He just smiled and asked about my day. It was simple, but it felt peaceful. I liked being around him. He listened to me in a way no one else did. When I talked about my students or my family, he listened carefully. One afternoon, after I finished teaching, I saw his car waiting outside. He got out, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You look tired," he said. "I thought you might need this." His voice was calm and warm. I took the cup and smiled. "Thank you," I said quietly. It was a small thing, but it meant a lot to me. That evening, we sat on a bench under the big oak tree near the school. The air smelled like rain. I looked at him and said, "You've changed a lot, Daniel." He smiled softly. "Maybe I just stopped pretending. I used to think I had to be perfect to earn respect. But you taught me something different." I raised an eyebrow. "What did I teach you?" He looked into my eyes and said, "That real respect comes from kindness, not pride." His words touched my heart. I didn't say anything for a while. Then I whispered, "I was wrong too." He looked surprised. "About what?" I smiled sadly. "About you. I judged you before I knew you." He shook his head. "Maybe I deserved that." We both laughed quietly, and for the first time, the silence between us felt gentle, not heavy. Days turned into weeks, and life felt calm again. Grace and Ben got engaged, and our house was full of laughter. My mother couldn't stop smiling. She said, "Ella, now it's your turn." I laughed, but inside, I thought of Daniel. I didn't know what we were yet. We weren't together, but something was growing between us, slowly, softly, like a flower after a long winter. One afternoon, my school held a charity event for children. I was helping organize it when I suddenly saw Daniel walk in with a big box of books and toys. "You came," I said, surprised. He smiled. "You said your students needed books, so here I am." The children were happy, running around him, thanking him. Seeing him with them made my heart feel full. He wasn't the proud man I once thought he was. He was kind, patient, and simple. After the event, as the sun began to set, I found him standing near the school gate. "Thank you for helping," I said. "You made the children so happy." He looked at me with a small smile. "I should be the one thanking you. You've changed how I see the world." I tilted my head, teasing. "Oh, really? How?" He smiled wider. "I used to believe that money and power were everything. Now I know that love, honesty, and kindness are worth more." My heart beat faster. There was something in his eyes that made me feel safe. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. Then I said softly, "Maybe we both learned something." He nodded. Maybe we did. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. The past didn't hurt me like before. I remembered the first time we met, how proud and cold he was. Now he was gentle and open. And I remembered how proud I was too, how quick I was to judge him. We had both changed. Maybe this was what love really meant. Learning to see someone with new eyes. A few days later, my family hosted a small dinner for Grace and Ben. Our house was full of flowers and laughter. My mother was busy giving orders to everyone. I was helping in the kitchen when I heard my father's voice. "Ella, there's someone here to see you." I wiped my hands and walked to the living room. Daniel was standing there, dressed neatly but simply, holding a small bouquet of white lilies. My mother almost dropped a plate. "Oh, Mr. Reed, what a surprise," she said loudly. He smiled politely. "Good evening, Mrs. Bennet," he replied. My mother looked at me and winked before leaving the room. I wanted to hide, but I couldn't stop smiling. Daniel looked at me and said, "I came to see your sister and Ben, but I also wanted to talk to you." My heart raced. "To me?" I asked softly. He nodded. "Yes." He took a deep breath. "Ella, I know I made mistakes. I was proud, and I hurt you and your family. But every day since we met again, you've shown me what it means to be better. You've changed me in ways I can't explain. I don't want to lose you. I love you." For a moment, everything around me went quiet. I could hear my heartbeat. I looked at him, his face, his eyes, his voice. He wasn't the man I hated months ago. He was someone new, someone I trusted. I smiled, tears filling my eyes. "I think I love you too," I whispered. He stepped closer, his eyes shining with warmth. "You think?" he said playfully. I laughed softly. "No," I said, looking up at him. "I know." He laughed too, and for the first time, it felt like everything had come full circle. When my family saw us talking, my mother nearly cried with joy. Grace hugged me and whispered, "See? Some stories do have a happy ending." I laughed and said, "Yes, but not without a few lessons first." That night, after everyone had left, Daniel and I walked outside under the stars. The air was cool, and the world felt peaceful. He took my hand and said quietly, "Do you remember the first time we met?" I smiled. "How could I forget? I thought you were the proudest man in the world." He laughed. "And you were the proudest woman." I nodded. Maybe we were both right. We both laughed again, but then his voice grew soft. "I'm glad we were wrong in the end." I looked up at the stars and smiled. Me too. The wind moved gently through the trees. His hand was warm in mine. I knew that our love wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was born from mistakes, pride, and misunderstanding, but also from forgiveness and truth. As we stood there together, I thought about everything that had happened. Sometimes love doesn't come easy. Sometimes it hides behind pride. But when we learn to listen, when we choose kindness over judgment, love finds its way. That night, I realized something simple but powerful. Pride had brought us apart, but love had brought us back together. And for the first time, I understood what true love really meant. It wasn't about money or status. It wasn't about being right or wrong. It was about two hearts learning to forgive, to understand, and to grow together.